Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Empire Total War with the Imperial Destroyer mod. As I laid out in the previous episode with the naval battle, my plan was to go ahead and attack the Russians. However, the Russians actually declared war on me, so that saves me problem because, as I recall, declaring war on Russia would have dragged in a lot of our allies, which would have been probably strange ones like Great Britain or, I don't know, the island of Aruba or something. So that saved me a whole lot of problem. I've marched in. What I decided was I marched both armies towards their current capital, which is this one right here. You can see it down here. And this one moved in, and as you see, it has spikes around it. Means it's dug in, and yeah, it's been attacked in the process of attacking the enemy. We've dug in, so I'll be able to get some dug in stuff. I'm not entirely sure what I'll get. Probably just horse hindering devices. Can't recall what they're called, but they're pretty good actually, because the Russians have a lot of cavalry, and the Polish-Lithuanians as well. Poland and Lithuania is probably the nation that's going to be most problematic to fight here, because they've got mostly line infantry, while the Russians have broken down units of mostly militia regiments and other units. So it's once the Polish turn up, they're the one to look out for. It's a pretty large battle. The enemy consists of 10,000 men that will be trickling in. Most of the Russian are completely garbage, which probably comprises about half the enemy force. And then we have my army of 3,352 men, comprising 3 cavalry regiments. We have, I think it's not 8, it's 9 infantry, and then 2 12-pounder cannons, and then 2 generals. And yes, hopefully with this battle I'll be able to probably mostly annihilate all the Russian forces in this area, which will completely wipe Russia out of the map really for continuation of this war. It's then going to be Prussia and the Polish, which will be the main focus on the continuation of war against our enemies. I imagine Russia will still play some part, but it will play a minor part, as they're mostly now exiled to the east in the east, sort of towards the Siberian region. I imagine those provinces. First of all, the provinces lack naval ports, so they can't trade with the world, which cuts off a lot of income, and then also I imagine the regions are not that good. They have one big city somewhere down there, I can't remember where. Anyways, everyone's waiting for this massive battle, so let's go in it. The enemies outnumbering me with 7,000 men. Let's see if I'm able to hold out here and defeat the enemy. Even if I lose here, I've got a secondary army, the army that I had in eastern Sweden, marching in, and it's actually not that far away here in the edge. So yeah, let's, without further ado, draw into battle. And so here we are on the field of battle. Unfortunately, once again, the enemy seems to be able to spawn up behind me, which we see this massive amount of Polish troops just trickling in. They've already sent away one of my cavalry units. And yeah, we're gonna have to deal with the Polish very quickly, so I haven't time to go over my defense, but as you can see quickly here, I've put a lot of horse barriers everywhere, and there's quite a nice terrain in which the enemy will have a hard time trying to pass. It looks as though I'm basically going to have to sacrifice my cavalry trying to hold on to this position, but it's not going to be that bad because the Polish army was going to be the hardest one to deal with, and yeah, we're gonna hold off a bit with firing. You can fire at will, and you know what, the cavalry is probably about to break any second now, so it's high time we started unloading into this mess of Polish troops. This entire bloody army coming out, comprised in this little area. I'll probably need the generals to turn up here. So my cavalry units were utterly destroyed as I sent them in to block the enemy, but it gave me time to get my line infantry regiments in order, and we're now blasting away. But I'm not entirely sure this is going to go too well. This unit has already lost quite a lot of men. However, I imagine the Polish units have lost quite a lot of men as well, and there's potential risk here, of course, for friendly fire. This one in the back, it's probably better off to actually move that one off to the flank also at the same time, because as we can see, the enemy is actually moving one of their units to flank. Keep up the fire, lads. How about hold fire and then fire at will again to pick new targets. We can see some of the Polish units breaking up, but still one heavy fight going on. Right, I want you guys to hold earlier, and then I have to check at the same time, because we got the Russians coming on straight here, and at this point they're kind of, well, they're not actually within cannon range yet, and I don't want the cannons to turn around, fire into the mountain, so we'll continue on that way. Ooh, it's probably best if I could see about drawing away these guys from the front, and the enemy is now attacking my unit in the back here, but it's holding on. Most of my units are being able to hold on to the task that I gave them to hold on to, but it's not an ideal situation, of course. Looks, however, like their army is about to break. They've had enough, but we have lost a lot of men during this fight, and this has kept us occupied and not being able to focus on what's going on at the front. But the Polish army has been sent off. I was hoping that most of the enemy would be funneled in through the front where I've got all my defensive position, but no, the Polish, for some reason, they seem to always be turning up in my back. Right, these two are really wounded, so we'll put them in the back. There's one Russian unit that's turning up from the side, so clearly I need to position some troops to protect on this side, and then just in case we'll have some over here as well, and then get the generals back in position. Enemy cavalry is closing in. It's a regiment of horse. Unfortunately, all my cavalrymen are gone, which means that I am not going to be able to chase down the enemy once they actually give up, which is less than ideal, given the fact that that would have been rather nice. Let's go ahead and form square in anticipation of the enemy cavalry, but as you can see, they were stupid enough to run onto the hinders and lost quite a few men. Right, so the thing is, the worst part of the battle has already been done. Dealing with the Polish was gonna be the main concern, and as we can see, I've clearly dealt with them, but I think that was almost a man-to-man Like, we lost one man, they lost one. So it wasn't a complete victory, I wouldn't say. I think it might be better actually to have just 2 units on the front here, and then we can have this one. God damn it, just go away, you stupid cavalry. For some reason, yeah, there we go. Now it actually runs. Yeah, look at that. I can't order it to run. You know, it takes a while. Looks like the enemy is actually not going to pass through here. I'm not entirely sure. The soldiers can't. Yeah, you can go through there. It's just that the enemy decides that they don't want to go through there. And they instead want to go through the mountain here. Which is obviously, I mean, it is better. It is a better way to attack from. But it's not that good for me, because I'd prepared them to come through through this little hole here, and it looks like all of them are going this way. So I don't really need. Well, we can keep 1 unit. We'll keep 1 unit. No, we'll keep 1 unit like so, and then we'll send this one as reinforcements on this side. Got the 2 smaller ones up here as well to protect against maybe cavalry pushing through or something of that nature. My cannons are laying fire onto the enemy. It's a lot of cavalry is moving around down there. I do want the enemy to get closer though to my position. So we're gonna pull these guys back a bit, lure the enemy to come closer, then push forwards again, and be able to lay some good shots in on them. Looks like a similar thing is happening over here. So we want to pull them. We want to pull the troops back, and then as the enemy moves forward, so do we. We're gonna hold fire with these that we're just about to fire there. Gonna tell them to hold fire, and once the enemy gets close out of the forest there is when we will open fire. I was earlier trying to shoot through the or blow up a few of the houses by shooting on them. However, that has, as you can see, not worked because I haven't been able to cut down a single house. The enemy has opened fire from inside the forest, and you know what? I'm gonna pull back even a bit further to try to get him to come out of the forest. Come further out of the forest before I throw my men forwards again. And this time tell them to fire at will, and hopefully we'll blow away the Russians hiding in the forest. Although I imagine the horse obstacles and the forest are gonna soak up quite a bit of bullets. These units are actually proving to be better targets, possibly, by just a way of their movements. I could send this unit to swing around and attack them from down here and be able to push up through here. And then maybe we'll tell the cannons to fire further out here. Oh no, get the dragoons over there. Good fire being leveled against the enemy. It's all smaller militia units. It's a shame that I don't have my cavalry, because if I had my cavalry, I'm pretty sure that some swift cavalry chargers would be able to send most of these away. I would be able to sweep away the infantry pretty quickly. I imagine that I could possibly destroy a lot of these Russians with a single good volley. So I'm gonna pull back to get them out of the forest. Then we're gonna move forwards and annihilate them. I am actually still within range of them. We're gonna have to pull back further. And the only cavalry I have is my generals. So I can see about using them to great effect by charging the enemy. It doesn't look to be going that well against here in this forest battle, given the fact that the enemy is firing from a position of cover. Okay, now we can't wait any longer. Let's throw ourselves forward, ready to shoot down these guys, and then charge through and get these two. The enemy will get the first shot. They won't be able to kill that many because, well, it's a militia unit. And then our volley will be quite devastating. Come on, go ahead. Blow them away. The cavalry will now advance and prepare to charge. The general's bodyguard charges through. The infantry will follow. The enemy is broken. The general's bodyguard will follow. And then we'll have to ride and attack these units because we're actually losing the fight there. We're losing this fight, given that if you look at how many men have been lost in these regiments, they've lost about 1/3 each. So 1,000 men are down to 300 men at this point. Let's get the infantry unit even further up here. This militia unit has given way. And I imagine more of them are going to give way. There's only 9 men here left, but they're still fighting. Quite surprised. Oh, here we go. The enemy militia is all gone, and they're now all routing. I'll be able to send this one into the forest, firing down towards the dragoons. And these units can for now retire. We'll drag these ones back to see if we can get the enemy to advance into a better position where we can fire upon them. Oh, I can see... Oh yeah, that was... I was looking on the map and I can see tons of red units here, but it's the enemy which is retreating. We'll recall the generals. Most of the Russian units seems to be have been defeated at this point, and I think we can see the writing on the wall at this point. I mean, the Russian were the weaker of the two armies, and now I have defeated the bulk of the Russian army, and we've destroyed a house right here next to the Cossacks. So I think we'll actually end this battle prematurely and head over to the campaign map to see what is going on right there. Just in time as well, because we killed the enemy general. So let's jump straight into the, or straight back into the campaign map, shall we? And so we're back on the campaign map. The battle actually dragged out for a full hour. I was forced to play out a full hour of battle just because I wasn't able, I didn't have enough men really to force the enemy to give up, and they just kept coming. And as we can see, out of my army, only 600 men remain out of 3,300. While if we look at what the enemy has left, they have 3,000 men remaining, but I was able to kill 6,000 of them, so they lost twice as many as I lost. Mostly goes down to one unit of line infantry, which has 75 men left. They managed to kill 10,000, no, not 10,000, they managed to kill 1,000 enemies. My regiment of horse is actually the ones that did worse. Somehow one unit of regiment of horse managed to kill not a single one. Totally. I mean, my 3 units of horse, comprising 360 men, killed only 40 enemies, while losing most of... I lost most of my cavalry, bringing them down to not even a third of their original strength. But with that said, hopefully this army will not follow up there won't be a second battle that this army has to fight, because then it's gone basically. Not that it mattered that much, because I don't think the chevrons actually mean that much of what I've seen the units perform, or at least as you look at the statistics of the unit, the characteristics doesn't actually change. They don't get better accuracy, they don't get more morale as they would get in the base game, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, as we can see, this was actually done during the Russians' turn, as they were the ones attacking. So there could very well be another battle, because I think the Polish are next up, and so the Polish could go ahead and attack. I mean, the enemy has still 3,000 men left, and there's a big difference in between the previous, where I had 3,000 versus 10,000, and now when I have 600 versus, I mean, almost 4,000 actually. So I'll go ahead and run through the end turn, and then we'll see what if the enemy goes ahead and attacks again, or what they decide to do. And there we are after the end turn, and luckily for me, I guess I underestimated how many of them I actually sent away since I won the battle. Most of the enemy forces actually retreated, and now we still have 2 sizable forces of enemies. So this is the army that attacked and broke down of the Polish. These are the remnants of the Russians that I fought. We have this one, which looks to be going into Sweden, so I'll have to chase that one with my army of Eastern Sweden. Maybe the enemy will attack me as I approach them. This army cannot stand anymore. One thing that's interesting is I can't... Ooh, it's going to cost 10,000 to resupply it. I'll guess I'll have to look at what... I mean... Would probably suffice with 2 cavalry units. How much did that save? And then let's maybe cut the infantry down by 1 unit and not replenish the cannons or one of the generals, and that puts it down still 7,000, which would be all the cash I have. Well, it's not going to be a viable option to continue fighting with this army, so we'll need to pull back towards safety. So we'll try to at least... You know what, we can move north. Oh shit, I need to... Everyone needs to follow, right? We can't just leave that guy. Oh! Wow, I split the army. A few, the most numerous units, will be getting reinforcements, so that I don't blow all my money on this. Cannons would actually be quite nice to have, and then to protect the general he needs a full crew, of course. And yes, let's take a look at what's up now. It's the attack here, but I don't think that's going to be for this episode. That's going to be for a later one. And then finally I get my port back, and we sunk the Prussian navy to repair this. And now I completely rule the waves. We're gonna detach 2 ships to attack here, and we're gonna make sure that the Prussians, they stopped us for so long from trading. Now we're gonna stop them. So we're gonna detach ships to go ahead and stop them trading from all their ports. Wait, was that brig? Yes, the brig should have probably actually been sent to protect this. Do I have a spare brig somewhere around here? I guess I can move this one, since, I mean, protecting this is pretty important. Do I have enough money? Yes, to build another brig. And then these 4 will be part of this navy, making sure that the Prussians cannot cross into our territory. I've got my priest here. I've actually got 2, one of which is stationed here to help out in converting this province, which will make it easier for me to control it. And then I have a priest over here as well, which is turning around this province, which is going pretty well. We've made it up to 30% of it has turned into Protestants. And you know what? Let's see about this naval battle. I'm pretty sure it's an out-resolve, given the amount of trade ships is in this navy. And victory, yes. And thing is, I can't actually see what boats these are. It would be nice to have that additional 4,000 gold as I needed to replenish my army. But if there are trade ships there, I can send them off to trade in Africa. So we're gonna just take all of it, and only one of them was a trade ship. The rest of them were frigates. At least we crushed the Russian navy, and so there's no threat of naval action through there. And now I am the supreme ruler of the Baltic Sea. Completely in control of this, which is going to be very important for the continuation of these wars. We'll stop this one from going into Sweden raiding. Destroy that one. I'll probably do that off camera. We'll try to regroup this one, and then we'll see what happens. Most likely I'll finish off most of this off camera, and then what I will show is when I start my attack on St. Petersburg and start dealing with the Prussians through a campaign going back towards Riga. And then we'll have a second one going to take Moscow from the Polish, which I'm not entirely sure. They haven't started changing this around to Catholicism just yet, and they still have all these bloody schools around. I haven't really shown much of what I've been researching in terms of technology, but we can see here a little bit. Got the new bayonet drill is on the way. I've got explosive shells, and in the battle we just saw, I don't think you saw really the effect of the howitzers, but they were able to, I mean, compact units hit by straight on will kill a lot of guys. So we'll definitely be looking into getting some howitzers of our own, and then division of labor would be nice, because then I can upgrade all my trade ports to commercial ports, which will increase the amount of trade I can do, and also just the output of the port in terms of what kind of money it will provide to the region. We can see here I've been able to set up trade with most kingdoms around here. I would like to even increase it even further, but as there's no real options, I mean, there was removed a lot of options. What would be nice if I continually gain more money would be to pay off nations to break trade partners and then set me as a trade partner. So certain smaller nations can only have a certain amount, so let's say 3 or 4 and so forth. So it would be nice to be able to sort of force them to break them and then set up trade with me, because, well, trade is going to be quite a massive factor in this. And we can see once I get back to selling my African goods, I'll be pumping this up to almost 10,000, so that's similar to what I'm making in tax. So an additional 8,000 revenue will push this over to a plus income of 12,000 per turn, which will be enough to replenish all my armies, or both my armies, but also my navies. And now when the naval threat against me is more or less under control, we could start to see Sweden becoming more of a colonial power. Now, what I've looked at is North America, and unfortunately, while I've been dealing with my stuff, England has is completely dominating North America, which probably brings them in so much cash, it probably would hurt my eyes to actually see it. But we do have some possibilities here. So we've got here in the north, in Canada. I'm not entirely sure what kind of resources this region provides. Probably fur if we're lucky, because we're already holding a big part of the fur trade. But right now I can't actually see if this region holds anything, which, I mean, that would be sad to take that region. But we do also have the pirates of Bahamas in Nassau. So we could take that and get ourselves into the sugar trade. And sugar is a pretty good commodity at 30 gold per unit, so that would be nice. And then maybe there's more. No, I think this one starts off as pirate, but the French have taken it. Luckily, I'm allied with the French, so we could see a possibility of me going to war against the English, but I imagine the English Navy is too strong. Maybe against the Spanish then, and ripping apart the last parts here of the Spanish Empire. The other opportunities go to India, where we could attack the Dutch and take Ceylon from them, which would open up gem trade and spices. Spices are pretty good. So that could be nice, and that could lead to further expansion onto the Indian mainland. And then what they've done is they've added a region. Let's go ahead and see. Can't see it here. They added a region in the East Indies. So this region is here. I'm not entirely sure if you can actually take it. We are trading with them, so maybe it's just that you can set up trade with them. I'm not entirely sure, but it would be nice possibly to be able to take it. Doesn't look like you will be able to actually get to the area, unfortunately. So I don't think we can actually take it. But the spice trade is down here, and since we've pushed down the price of my African cargo, but so has most prices actually dropped as well. So I think continuing to add on to the selling more of the African goods is probably what we're looking at. Maybe send the Navy down to protect that Navy more, since it's going to be such a big part. It's going to be a half of our revenue, so it's going to be very important. But I've really been able to turn it around here, and I can see I have a stable situation where I can slowly and methodically expand my influence. But given the situation right now, it might not be that... I mean, the possibility of going into North America is... well, it's not that good, is it? The possibility, because we would have to go up against quite great empires such as the Spanish, the French, and the English. And then if we look at the prestige chart, the Spanish Empire is the one that has the most. Next is the English, then come the Ottomans. After the Ottoman come the French, and then actually we've got Poland. Poland at 669. Then it's Russia. After Russia is the Maratha Confederacy. After them is the Mughal Empire. After them is the Austrians. After the Austrians there's Prussians. Then we have Dutch. After the Dutch we have Persia. After Persia we have Portugal. And I imagine either it looks as though I'm after Portugal. And then we have tiny small nations like the Papal States and Venice and whatnot. The Pirates is actually the worst one. There is... I mean, I could go into possibly taking Malta. That could be one option, because Malta has just this small little island. Not entirely sure what... they make a decent amount of money from Malta. And possibly the Barbary States, but that would probably bring me into conflict with the Spanish Empire as well. So, going into different colonial expansions, we will have to think carefully. Possibly what one could do then is attack the Ottomans. No one really likes the Ottomans, and there are quite a few places that we could take, and if not take, then we could possibly liberate regions, like liberating Greece, that would be able to trade with them, and I could sell my African goods to basically go around creating protectorate nations just to be able to sell my African goods, which is kind of an Alex Jones conspiracy theory thing, the Swedish world order, where we take over nations just to be able to sell my within quotation mark African goods. Now I've talked on for way too long, so it's gonna be interesting to see anyways. Right, so as I always say, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and hopefully I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye!